When you're starting missions, nonprofits, helping others, sometimes you don't have to look for a big brand, like we helped like 5,000 people, or whatever. Sometimes you just are like, I'm so grateful if we can help one person.
I think we're more effective in smaller projects and also sustaining, I mean, not just handouts, but really equipping them with the ability to help themselves.
Welcome to Medicine, Motherhood, and Missions, the podcast where real life meets big dreams. I'm Johanna, your host, and every episode will dive into inspiring stories from PAs, doctors, and professionals who are also dreamers and mission-driven changemakers. From the hospital halls to the hearts of our homes, and even into communities across the world. We'll laugh, learn, and uncover the challenges, triumphs, and everything in between as we see life through each other's perspectives. Looking for more joy and balance in your career? Don't miss our free guide, How to Be a Fulfilled Clinician, your quick boost of encouragement with tips to help you thrive while juggling all your hats you wear. And if you've got little dreamers at home, check out Little Evie's Big Dreams on Amazon. These stories are meant to spark imagination, courage, and kindness, perfect for bedtime or anytime. Follow along as Evie, a little Sri Lankan girl, brings joy and creativity to her community while daring to dream big. This podcast is also brought to you with love by the Ephraim Foundation International, because empowering children and families in rural Sri Lanka isn't just charity, it's continuing a legacy of hope and creating futures full of possibility. So grab your cup of coffee or tea, settle in, and get ready for uplifting conversations that will leave you inspired and equipped to make a greater impact. Let's jump in. Welcome back to Medicine, Motherhood, and Missions. What happens when one person's willingness to say yes to God grows into a mission that impacts families, children, and entire communities? In this special episode of Medicine, Motherhood, Missions, I sit down with my husband, Dr. Paul Moses, to share the story behind the Ephraim Foundation International. Paul offers a unique perspective, having watched the organization grow from its very early years into a thriving nonprofit dedicated to empowering communities in Sri Lanka through education, nutrition, leadership development, and sustainable opportunities. Together, we reflect on the moments that shaped the mission, the challenges behind the scenes, and ways to build a ministry while building a marriage, and why we believe lasting change begins with investing in people rather than projects. Whether you're involved in missions, considering starting a nonprofit, or simply wondering if your small impact of obedience can make a lasting impact, this conversation will encourage you to trust that God can multiply faithfulness in ways you never imagined. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, Paul, for joining me today to talk about this topic about the Ephraim Foundation International.
Thank you for inviting.
And so Paul does play a role in the Ephraim Foundation International, helping me with administration of the projects and tasks. But we do have a group of volunteers and community leaders in Sri Lanka who are really, really doing the work of the hands and feet of the ministry and mission. And we're so grateful for them, their work, their efforts, their time, and all their hard work and energy, because they're the ones really making a difference, really making an impact, and helping kids and families across Sri Lanka. So we're so grateful. But I just wanted to, talk about why we started it, give people an idea of where the mission is all about, and what, from your perspective, because when we met, what did you think about the whole project and what I was trying to do? Give me your perspective.
I think I was not in that world of working for nonprofit or doing those kind of community outreaches in remote countries, remote villages. And so it was a whole new experience for me to learn from Johanna and what she's accomplished. And I I learned a lot, and I think more than that, traveling to Sri Lanka in particular, just to witness the abject poverty that people have. But more than that, that we can make a difference with very little that what we have that goes very far in those countries. And yeah, I think that was what was at least encouraging, that we can actually make a tangible difference in people's lives to improve their prospects.
Yeah. And it's because people around us who um, support us and help us, encourage us to do those things and make those efforts that helps us keep going, especially seeing the gratitude and the thankfulness and just seeing the difference that it does make in these kids and families' lives is why we keep pressing forward. Because sometimes it's so hard, right? Because you see my struggle and the difficulties that it is to kind of get this whole thing going, the nonprofit.
First of all, identifying the needs, because a lot of the needs are not well known, and people don't know how to connect. I mean, there are big organizations, World Vision and others that have done great work, and we, God's using them mightily in these countries. But there are communities, villages that just don't have those linkages or go unnoticed. That we try to, in our limited way, at least connect and bring to light what the needs are. Not These are not selected people that we know,
Yeah.
or they are made known to us through connections what their needs are. So I think that that's where we hope to make an impact, where people are not aware of these needs.
Yeah, exactly. I think the key thing here is, identifying the needs, identifying what problem we want to solve, knowing what sustainable options there are to solve the problem, and not overwhelm ourselves with trying to solve all the problems, because there are a lot of needs. And if you try to identify all of them, you can overwhelm yourself so quickly.
Right.
So what, because initially there was so many economic crises, difficulties over and over that Sri Lanka has faced, and the 2021-2022 economic crisis was a huge one that many people needed groceries, immediate humanitarian relief, which we did provide and we did try to help with as much as we can. And then even last December, the flooding in Sri Lanka affected, we have learning educational access development programs, otherwise known as LEAD programs, in several rural areas. And especially the ones in our Makale area, they were hugely impacted by the floods, because the floods and the rains caused landslides. And a lot of these houses and little communities that we serve are just on the hills in these areas in Sri Lanka. And they just got washed away. Apparently, at least one of our communities got totally washed away, and we had to help with a lot of humanitarian aid for immediate disaster relief, for food, clothing, hygiene products, basic necessities that they had no access to, water even, in many of those communities right after that flooding. and landslides. Their whole house was gone. So, sometimes, even though the nonprofits that you work with, that you start, that you help may have one mission goal, sometimes there are needs that go beyond that specific mission and goal. And there are times when we have to help beyond that. But our mission and goal is to help rural impoverished communities in Sri Lanka through educational programs, sustainable efforts, through micro enterprise initiatives to help the families create more sustainable options and increase income for them to be empowered, educated, and encouraged so that we can continue and they can continue together making a lasting impact wherever they are. And so, but, what were your thoughts? We got to go to Sri Lanka and visit one of the lead classes in Makandra. What was your perspective when you saw that?
I was humbled that there's some good people there that are trying to teach these young kids in a very small room. I remember there's no real desks and chairs. They're all on the floor learning. And this things that we take for granted are not there. So to witness that firsthand was quite revealing that they really literally don't have a proper classroom and materials, and they're making the best with what they have. And also, some of those kids, a lot of them don't get enough meals. In fact, it was really surprising. There was a girl who was older than Genevieve, but looked malnourished and was skinnier than Genevieve, who was younger. And that tells me a lot of things, that there's so many areas that we can be at least provide a little bit of relief in that particular school.
Mhm.
So we, through the donations that we were able to help, right?
Yeah, because there's so many compounding issues with these communities, from malnourishment, nutritional needs, the difficulty in access to some after school programs that would help them be encouraged to study more, to continue in their education, the income disparities to be able to afford other things, family support is not always there. So, when you think about these communities, there's so many factors to consider, but we have to see how we can sustainably do one thing. And one thing I have learned as I have done this nonprofit is if I try to overdo and reach out in so many things, there's just not enough depth to what we're doing that we don't continue a sustainable impact. So what I have focused on is working with these communities and finding out how we can really focus on these lead programs and these after school programs. And sometimes I have had to say, I can't branch out to another area because I just don't have the funds for it. Even though they're like, this other rural area really wants to have a lead program there, but I just don't have the funds to stretch into that. Otherwise, something else will fall, or the nutrition meals won't be able to be given to the classes that we're doing, or we won't be able to do Inspire class this month in that area, because we're overexpanding. And, and even speaking to the classroom, we're using what is available and we're using what we can. And even with the basic bare necessities and bare minimum of what what we can afford at certain times, the children are thriving. Like that from that Makandra class that you saw, that's where there was this one little girl, Talitha, whose dad is a street sweeper. And she was told by her teachers in her government school that she should not proceed to the second grade and that she was not going to be smart enough to learn because that's what they just gave up on her. But her mom heard about our lead program in that area, took her to that class that you saw where kids are, we didn't have tables and chairs at that time. Now we have been able to get some tables and chairs there, but we didn't have that time. And they brought her to that. And within the next couple of months, that little girl, Talitha, she learned not only Sinhalese, but also English. She was able to get into reading, get it better at writing. And her teachers were so astonished. She started to do so well. And they were like, yes, you'll be going to the third grade. And her mother was so happy and came to the teacher and said she's so grateful because there's hope for her child to continue in her education. Someone believed in her, the teachers believed in her, and gave her the opportunity to learn. And it's with simple paper pens, the teacher who is a volunteer, and sometimes it was just sitting on the floor and learning. But even that little simple thing made such a difference for someone. And, when you're starting missions, nonprofits, helping others, sometimes you don't have to look for a big grand, we helped like 5,000 people, or whatever. Sometimes you just are like, I'm so grateful if we can help one person,
I think we're more effective in smaller projects and that and also sustaining. I mean, not just handouts, but really equipping them with the ability to help themselves. And
that's the key. Equipping them to help themselves through, agricultural projects. There was one lady, she had a little garden and we got her for $80. We were able to provide within that $80 the hoses that she needed, about 80 different types of seeds for vegetables and plants and seedlings and watering cans and different soils and fertilizers that she needed for the cultivation. Within the next harvest season, she showed pictures and videos of so many beans and crops that she was able to grow and sell them in her market, which helped her then continue this income for herself and her family. And she was so grateful. And that was just with $80 that lasted her for season after season, and that started her ability to continue that agricultural farm. So we're talking about, we are looking at things from a different perspective of what can we do with a little that can make a impact in our small way, and, the chicken farms, or we helped I love partnering with trusted organizations. And I've made connections with a local organization who we can partner with and trust. And we were able to work together to help buy a fishing boat for someone to continue his fishing business, or a tractor for someone to continue in their business of collecting wood and selling firewood or different things like that. And so, we have been able to see with like what I sometimes call a widow's mite type of giving, but God can do so much with it. And so sometimes I feel like some people think they have to have so much in order to do something. But with what little you have in your hands, God can bless it and do so much with it. And I'm so grateful for the people that we work with who are so it's so wonderful that they can do a lot with a little too. You know, they make use of volunteers and our teachers for the Inspire programs for the kids. We do a social emotional learning activity all day class on once a month in each of our different village locations. And they learn social emotional intelligence, character development, leadership development. And through these fun activities, like this last month, they learned about a compass and how to use a compass and what is their compass in life. You know, how do we use wise counsel? And, and how do we find that wise counsel to make the right decisions in life, you know? And so these it's a fun day for the kids and the teachers are so faithful in how they teach and they do a lot on their own
Yeah,
heart.
that's nothing for them. They want the best for their kids.
They
So
care so much for others
you
that
know,
they're willing to do so much and not ask for anything in return. And those are the people we get behind and we partner with and work with. And together we can be a blessing to each other and these communities. And I'm so grateful. It's not about us. And the only reason why we share and talk about the Ephraim Foundation International is because we can't do it alone. You know, we can't do it alone. We need others around us to partner with us and to help so that we can make a greater impact and difference in these communities and families. And it's amazing because some of the teacher who are doing the Inspire program, another of our partner organizations was saying we have a couple of villages that have kids that really would benefit from these types of lessons. Uh, if your teacher is willing, will they want to go serve in those villages? And it's extra work for them and it's not easy. But she happily did that, and we happily said, sure, if you're willing, go for it. We're happy to share the resources and the curriculums. You know, these days, there are people who charge per curriculum, per student. We don't do that. We try to give everything freely and kindly and as we can. And, you know, by the donations that we receive, then we can give those opportunities for kids in Sri Lanka to do that without paying or, you know, without the or other people paying for it, you know. And so we just want to make things available so that these kids can have an opportunity to be encouraged in their futures, an opportunity to grow and succeed because we all deserve that one opportunity in our life. And so that's what we're trying to do, you know.
uh, and we try to keep the administration costs low.
Or but you know, just paying to develop a website, but that all is on us. But otherwise yeah, we don't take any salary, we don't take anything from the organization. Everything is given and everything is donated. Everything is for the communities we serve. And, you know, it's by the grace of God. That's all I can say. And it's hard times. It's not easy. It's extra work, but we happily try to do it because we know that we're here not for ourselves. And if we can make a small difference, it'll, whatever we can do to help another person, we will try to.
Right.
And what impacted you most during the visit to Sri Lanka?
I think many things, or most, I'm meeting so many people that really care about, like, for example, when I went through my problems health-wise, there's so many people genuinely praying for me, and I'm
Yeah.
very grateful for them, and just the genuine giving heart of people there, and that, they were very supportive of us through prayers, and also just seeing the many great works that they're doing in their churches and communities to help people who are less fortunate and with very little resources. They're making the most of very little resources. And that was quite impressive to me. And that despite their lack of wealth or very limited resources, they still have
They're so generous.
so generous to everyone, to us
Everyone
when we
around.
visited. And
Yeah. Because when we visited, Paul had just finished chemo about 6 months, less than 4 months prior was his last chemo. And then 6 weeks prior was a major surgery to remove the rest of his cancer. 6 weeks prior to our trip. And he was skin and bones, but that trip was something that re-energized us as a family. And we were able to see the communities we serve in Sri Lanka and see that generosity and kindness in their hearts and know that they had been praying for us.
yeah,
And it was so amazing to see that.
it put my problems perspective. I thought, despite the severity of what I've been through, though that trip was a huge boost to me, and not just that I can actually do this and know
There's
that
hope for tomorrow
there's
for
hope for tomorrow,
us.
and
That's what we
and
said.
also that my problems are still inconsequential to what others have had there, and what we can do to help them. So it put my problems out of my mind, and I'm very grateful for that at
Yeah.
that time.
Sometimes the ones we think we're serving, they're actually doing more service for our hearts, for our minds, and our lives than we may feel that we're doing for them,
So I
because
might take this opportunity to thank all of those people in Sri Lanka,
yeah,
all the pastors, all the family friends and people I really had not met before that prayed for me
they
and
had never met you
yeah,
before, and they prayed for you.
and they prayed for me there. I'm so grateful to all of them and every one of their prayers.
Yeah.
And we are praying for you as well for your needs,
Yeah.
just as you prayed for our needs.
Yeah. And life may deal us with so many different cards and difficulties or struggles. But just like what we saw in Sri Lanka is that hope and that encouragement and that desire to do more with their lives. And that encourages us to do more with our lives. And so I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be a part of the Ephraim Foundation International. And I hope and pray that you too will be encouraged to do something in your life. It does not have to take a lot. And with just even a simple smile, a simple word of encouragement to someone, you can make a huge difference too. Thank you so much for the time, for listening in. And as we wrap up today's conversation, we hope one message stays with you. God doesn't ask us to have all the answers before we begin. He simply asks us to be faithful with what He's placed in our hands. Looking back, we're reminded that the Ephraim Foundation International didn't grow because of one person. It has grown through God's faithfulness and through the generosity, prayers, and partnership of people who chose to believe that every child deserves hope, opportunity, and the chance to flourish. Our vision has always been about more than meeting immediate needs. It's been about investing in the next generation through education, leadership, nutrition, and relationships that create that lasting change. Every child we meet reminds us that the potential is everywhere. All that's missing is opportunity. If today's episode encouraged you, we'd like you to be part of the work of the Ephraim Foundation International, whether through prayer, giving, or sharing our mission. We'd be honored to have you join us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for believing that one act of faith can create a ripple effect of hope. And remember, when we invest in people with love and purpose, we're investing in generations to come. Until next time, keep living your purpose, loving well, and sparking hope wherever God has placed you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the Ephraim Foundation. Thank you for the Ephraim Foundation.
Thank you for joining us in this episode of Medicine, Motherhood, and Missions. We hope you found inspiration, insight, and a sense of connection in the stories we shared today. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners like you. Follow us on Instagram for updates, free downloads, and join a community of like-minded individuals passionate about making a difference through medicine, motherhood, and mission work. Remember, you're not alone in this journey. Until next time, keep sparking hope, keep healing, keep nurturing, and keep making a difference. This is Johanna signing off from Medicine, Motherhood, and Missions. The medical opinions expressed on this podcast are for informational purposes only and should not be considered as medical advice. Always consult a licensed healthcare provider for personal medical concerns or questions. The views expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the podcast host.